Hey, good morning, church family and Facebook world, friends that watch. I'm coming to you from the Home Depot parking lot here in Blairsville, Georgia for Light for the Day today. Power went out at the house. This storm's moving through, and so I had to come to town anyway. And so looking at 1 Corinthians chapter number 1, we'll give you three thoughts this morning. And they start with a P, so it's alliterated. What's new with me? I love alliteration. But first thing that, Paul wrote a church that had a problem with carnality. And early in the chapter, he said he wants there to be no divisions among them, but that they would be perfectly joined together. Perfectly joined together. And the first thought I had was precision. A local church does not need to be divided. It needs to be working hand in hand together. And if something's fitly joined together, that's precision. God intends for his church to operate precisely the way he commands it to. And it's a shame there's more division in churches than I think people realize. I'm not saying our church is exempt from it, but by the grace of God, we don't have division in our church, and I'm very thankful for that. I've preached and tried to have sermons that have preventive maintenance. We all have a flesh, we all have an opinion, but God's been so good to us at our church, and I pray that Shining Light will stay precise and that we would be a church that's not divided but fitly joined together. So there's precision. Later on in the text, he talks about how there's this personality. People say, I'm of Cephas, I'm of Paul, I'm of Apollos, I'm of Christ, the super spiritual ones. And he continues to expound upon this division. And he mentioned something. He said, God didn't send me to baptize. He said, but to preach the gospel. Now, I'm not here to minimize the doctrine of baptism. We believe that baptism is very important. It's the first step of obedience after salvation. It is not a part of salvation. Think about it. If baptism was a part of salvation, Paul would have baptized every person he led to the Lord. He said, God didn't send me to baptize. He sent me to preach the gospel. And so the second thought is priorities. Priorities. God wants a local church to be precise. He wants us to have the right priorities. And salvation is the priority. Baptism is secondary. Very important. Not minimizing it, but it's not a part of salvation. Then the third thought, you'll like this, polling. Say, preacher, where do you get polling in the text? Well, further on down, it just made me think of this as I was reading through this chapter in my devotions this morning. Do you really believe the polls? I certainly don't. They were wrong in 2016. I think they're wrong again today. But this is what made me think of polling. Later on down in the text, the Apostle Paul says, and this is coming from God, he's quoting what God gave him. God says, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise and bring to nothing the understanding of the prudent. Man, I pray that verse rings true on Tuesday. I'm praying that it will be a landslide for righteousness. You say, preacher, our president's not even saved. Well, we don't know that. He may or may not be. I know he doesn't talk like it. I know he's got a checkered past, but I'm not voting for a personality. I'm voting for a platform. I hope you are too. The life of the unborn are important to God. He made them. He knows who we are in the womb. And if that was the only reason you're voting for righteousness, that's a good enough reason for God and me. But polling. I hope and pray that God destroys the wisdom of the wise and brings to nothing the understanding of the prudent. And I hope that'll challenge you today. Precision, priorities, and polling. And that's Light for the Day. God bless you.